Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and this is a new knife from CIVIVI. This is the Over Yonder. It's an upscaled Yonder. Here's the original sized Yonder, and about the only complaint of the Yonder was it was a little small. So if you had a larger mitt like I do, then maybe a larger version would be good. But this is also available in this really cool, it's called a G10 aluminum foil. So no, you don't feel those bumps there. It's silky smooth as a surface, but has this really dynamic kind of foil looking. Let me turn down the brightness on this a couple of notches just to see if I can bring that out. Look at that. Anyway, it's a neat idea. I'm glad CIVIVI is exploring some of the different versions of G10. So what we have here is a knife that is very popular but a little bit larger, and they have changed the profile of the blade just a hair. Now that might be during the upscaling, but perhaps also it's more in the functionality of a larger version of the knife. The overall length on this is about 7.3 inches. The weight is about 3 ounces, so not a whole lot of heft here. But the neat thing is its street price is about $67. And that gets you into a really high quality knife with a blade that is 14C28N. And 14C28N, kind of unusual here, especially in the kind of the Bark River controversy. It's actually an amazing steel. It's a Sandvik steel, and what's interesting here is we're going to have a little heart-to-heart about Chinese knives. Now, I've got plenty here that aren't. If you want to fixate on those, here's a Benchmade, here's a ZT US made, here's a Benchmade Infidel, Benchmade, here's another ZT, and here is a $500 Benchmade right there. But I also have some Sen cuts, which are absolutely outstanding knives. It's kind of, CIVIVI is part of a vertical integration of the We Knife Corporation. So they're We Knives, which is essentially the top end. That's the most expensive, you know, the latest technology, etc. CIVIVI's kind of in the middle. And then there are the Sen cut knives. And so you've got this vertical integration where the highest level of technology and steel and performance drifts down. First, you know, it's identified and applied in the We knives, then it moves into CIVIVI, and then finally into the Sen cuts, which are arguably some of the highest quality affordable knives, you know, out there. They're just amazing knives. Every Sen cut I have is honestly kind of shocking at how nice it feels, how good it cuts, the performance of it. Sometimes they do, you know, take one step down in blade steel, but blade steel today is actually so much better than anything that was out there before. But anyway, going back to this guy here, it's an outstanding design. Zach Whitmore, who's a YouTube celebrity in America, you know, kind of worked with CIVIVI to come out with the original version. And that's not unusual for CIVIVI. They have worked with a lot of different Americans, whether they're special ops soldiers or, you know, bushcrafters, and they have come up with some designs that have really kind of pushed the limits of affordable knives. In fact, this particular one won the you know, like the affordable blade of the year at a blade show in Atlanta. You know, it was that good. But anyway, so some of the CIVIVI knives really can displace your, you know, your desire for some of the more expensive ones. I used to have a Benchmade that was a lot in this form factor. It had a few more of these choils across, finger grooves, if you will. But as far as a flipper, it never really flipped all that well. But it was in much this shape, and I loved, you know, kind of this orange and black motif. Because that brought out some of the things that I liked that was almost more of a Paleolithic look, which I've done with some of the other CIVIVI knives, like the Spiny Dogfish, which just has a great, almost ancient feel to it. But anyway, being able to afford something like this and being able to get a high quality version, really is an area where CIVIVI excels. So, other CIVIVI knives, check this one out. I'll do another video on this. But this guy here, this is the Altus. It's a fixed blade, solid G10 handle. Again, 14C 28N. Beautiful design. Comes with this sheath. But again, street price, $56. So here's the kind of the direction I'm going with this. I love my Benchmades. I love my Falkenevens. I've got quite a few different brands, lots of USA made ones, including the ZTs. But if you can't afford it, does that mean you shouldn't, deserve a really high quality knife? Now, I am shooting this on a camera made in China, on a memory card made in China, with a microphone made in China, using lights made in China. Talking about a knife made in China. Okay, that's not the end of the world. That's the reality of the world. I also have plenty of USA made knives, and I love these things. They're great, but I also, as I mentioned in another video, USA made stuff is expensive. It's kind of crazy, whether it's textiles or hard goods. It's all over the place in the expensive realm. And that's because generally when you employ the kind of the American manufacturing model, it does get expensive because of all of the things involved in American manufacturing. Now, it does not mean that the Chinese made are lesser quality. Doesn't mean that they are inferior in any way. It means it's a different country making it. Same reason we can get avocados cheaper in different places. If you've ever traveled out of the country, boy, baguettes, go to Paris, walk down any street, the baguettes are going to be so much more affordable than the $4 or $5 or even $7 that they are where I live. And that's just for a specialty loaf of bread. I do lots of Snap-on videos. I love Snap-on tools, American made, just outstanding, wonderful, wildly expensive. The moment you move to something like this Tecton, made in Taiwan, this is an American company, suddenly it's a high quality tool that is affordable, that people can use. I mean, I've got Milwaukee lights, China. I've got Snap-on lights, China. I do have some German stuff too, like these Stahlwillis here, made in Germany. But I like to explore a lot of different types of manufacturing around the world, and honestly, I'm impressed with CIVIVI's and a lot of Chinese knives. Now, what's interesting about the Bark River controversy is the gentleman who was running Bark River started using a Chinese steel, and the Chinese steel, he said, was highly comparable to what turned out to be CPM 154. In my previous video I said 154 CM. Apparently the CPM 154 is an upgraded version of 154 CM, and a lot of these knives that I have here, if you look, these Benchmades, I've got, actually that one's a D2. Let's see, do I have one out here? Here's one, I think. No, I've got my high-end Benchmades. That's not good. But anyway, I've got a bunch of 154 CM or CP. Let me grab one here. What's this guy? And that's another D2. Grab another Benchmade here. Let's see, what do I have here? This is, nope, that's an S30V. Grab another Benchmade here. What do we have here? Check that out. Okay, so we have got a 154 CM. Took me a while to find one. But anyway, the CPM 154 apparently is a little better, but ironically, it is very similar to what's in this knife. Now, I do have a lot of experience with the different steels, and sometimes it has to do with the blade configuration, the grind, the thinness, or the thickness, depending. and what you use it for. So it isn't just the steel. That's why, you know, something like the D2 here, just a good solid work steel. Why? Because it's like, hey, I need to get something done, and the D2 works really well. Whereas something like this, actually I did complain about this. This one here is an M390. I've started to warm up a little bit to M390, especially with the County Com. But that's an older steel. It's been around a long time. Others, you know, if you look at this guy, we've got an S90V, as well as I believe this is an S90V. Yep. Just high-powered steel. And if you get lighter and thinner, that really makes a difference what kind of steel you're working with. I believe this one, let's see, what do we have there? This is an S30V on this thing, which is, by the way, look at that. This is going back to Benchmade. The handle's cracking. You know, the wood broke off on both sides. It's kind of, I mean, that's just unfortunate. You know, the blade's holding up pretty well, but I'm kind of disappointed a little bit. So that's why I am highly flexible when it comes to the different kinds of knife steels that I use. And the Over Yonder with its 14C 28N is just, it's an outstanding knife. I like the axis lock, or that crossbar lock. I love that they're doing that kind of G10 aluminum foil. Silky smooth again, but wild visual texture. And then that they're going in this direction. This is a stout knife, and to have something like this with a street price of $56. I mean, I'm headed over to Montana Knife Company soon for their grand opening, and their least expensive knife, as I pointed out in my video, is $200. So that does put it out of reach for a lot of people, or if they do buy it, they're going to be very careful, or maybe not even using it. But getting into something like that, this is a nice working drop point knife, just an outstanding, almost a spear point, outstanding design, simple, highly effective, very affordable. So it does create a bit of a conundrum. I get it, but I certainly support American manufacturing, hardcore. I love American manufacturing. I have tons of USA made knives, but I also know that there's a lot of people who are working on great designs with great materials, and just because they don't live here doesn't mean they should be ignored. Now, I know that can be controversial. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts, but regardless, check out the new Over Yonder. It does come in a few different flavors. I think I'm most impressed with this G10 foil. That is just so cool. You can, of course, get the wood version here with Damascus blade. This is supporting Zach. Zach's an American. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. And with that, Doc out.